Thanks to my Ko-fi supporters that make these videos possible. You can also get a deck review on my weekly Tuesday and Sunday streams. It's the best way to support the channel.
Hello everyone. I'm sick. I've partied a little too hard during my birthday, but you'll just have to bear my voice if you want to watch a 3-3 elk video. It's been about 2 months since the last time I've done a deck tech about a deck I built. Anyway, the deck today is easily my most played deck for the last couple months, and I'm super excited to talk about it due to its incredibly varied play patterns, its budget potential, its wacky bomb-laden curve, and just like how unbelievably resilient it is. Basically everything about it. Cormella is a 4-mana 2/4 vampire rogue with haste. You can pay 1 mana and tap her to add a red, a blue, and a black mana for instants and sorceries only. And when she dies, you get to return an instant or sorcery from your graveyard to your hand. Now, a lot of people, and I mean a lot, build her as combo, using Undying scam cards like the best one, Not Dead After All, and a Phyrexian Altar. You can infinitely sack loop Cormella. This is not where I went with my list. I see my Cormella deck here a lot more how Snail built Radha, as a ramp piece in the command zone. But instead of skipping turn 3 to go to turn 4 with a 2-drop ramp piece, I skip turns 5 and 6 to go to 7. Although it's important to note that Cormella's haste is interesting here, as if you play her as if she was a 5-drop, you can go to turn 8 instead, skipping 6 and 7 mana. This allows you to hold up instant speed interaction. This brings us to the first major point of this video, considering your curve during deck building and the purpose of your ramp. Cormella is a 5-drop in my eyes, as stated earlier. I like the ability to drop her and hold up interaction, but I tend to favor 2-drop ramp in this list instead of the higher utility 3-drop ramp. Why? This is simply because having the flexibility to drop her on 4 is important, even if I don't always go for it. Yes, but also because it's easier to weave these rocks into later turns as well. Let's say I have Cormella, a mana rock, and 5 lands. A pretty normal spread for the mid-game. This means I have 8 mana for instants and sorceries available to me. And with a major spread of the instants and sorceries in this deck being 7 drops, a grand total of 5, I can deploy one of these 2 mana rocks and still cast a big spell in this situation, which propels me up to 10 mana next turn, or 8 without Cormella if she happens to get removed, which is tied for the second highest big spell density, with 9 at 3 spells each. Now, I've talked about this deck's interaction, and the suite is really strange to those outside looking in. I mostly chose 3-drop instants as my interactive spells of choice. Why? Well, it's simple. Cormella makes 3 mana, and using that efficiently is easy, so the added mana is worth the extra utility. I run Whirlwind Denial and Perplex as counterspells, for instance, and Maestro's Charm, Chaos Warp, Overwhelming Surge, and Crosis's Charm as removal spells instead of more commonly played 2-mana kill spell options just because of the way Cormella curves out. And once again, in the lens of using Cormella as a 5-drop and why I don't use 3 mana rocks in this deck, a 2-mana rock on turn 2 allows me to hold up one of these 3-mana instants on turn 3 and keep holding them up on turn 4 after I play Cormella with that extra mana from the rock. On top of all of this, naturally, I'm running Quick Study, Rowan's Grim Search, Prismari Command, Salundi Vision, and Frantic Search as well, allowing me to have instant speed action even if I don't end up casting a removal spell. Now then, I've been talking about the big, stupid mana plays this deck gets to make all video. Let's get to them, in order of how often they work, why I chose them, and how Cormella breaks some of them wide open. First off are the 2 most consistently broken and most iconically elk cards in the deck, Cruel Entertainment and Worst Fears. Taking control of someone's turn is backbreaking. Make them waste their protection like fogs or counterspells, and then open them up for a win by tapping them out. Attack with all of their creatures unfavorably, make them remove their own commander and keep it in the graveyard or exile. It's nastier to resolve one of these against an opponent. This being said, it's far more nasty with the Wishclaw talisman the deck runs. Give the Wishclaw to an opponent to grab Cruel Entertainment or Worse Fears. Then it's time for what I call the Toxic Deluge Purity Test. If you run it or a card like it, you're dead. I get to tutor it and pay all your life into it. Not only that, when you control someone, you also get to hand yourself the Wishclaw back to tutor again. Next up are the theft cards. Fevered Suspicion, Breach the Multiverse, Rite of Replication, Clone Legion, and Mutinous Massacre. These cards scale with what your opponents are doing. If you're in a pod with all Stompy players, they're broken. If not, they can get a bit worse. This being said, most of these are not without fun tricks, where you get to see what Cormella offers in the late game beyond just being a mana dork. With Breach, you get to steal from each player, and if Cormella ever dies, you then return the Breach to your hand and then cast it again, returning Cormella as your option. This value loop allows you to breach your opponents every time Cormella dies. I have decked opponents out by resolving Breach the Multiverse 7 times this way. That's funny, but with Clone Legion we get a little stupid. Clone Legion can target any player, and therefore when the spell is copied, you can target yourself with the original and your opponent with the copy, stealing their board, doubling it, then legend ruling your tapped Cormella in favor of the untapped one to pick up Clone Legion, back up, where on future turns you can just keep targeting yourself to exponentially increase your board repeatedly. Finally, with Mutinous Massacre, if you choose to gain control of all even creatures and destroy all odd ones, you untap Cormella as part of that instruction, giving you the ability to tap her for mana again for more value. The last 2 cards in the Big Stupid Plays camp are by far the weakest, but are still funny in their own right and have moments where they shine incredibly bright. The first one of these I'll mention is Profane Transfusion, which can combo with the Toxic Deluge in the deck to basically outright kill an opponent in a more aggressive table, and can be used to get back in the game. I've had it win a few times for me, but it's definitely niche, just a pet card. Cruel Ultimatum has more potential, however, and it's actually able to be a very good card for the deck when it's copied any number of times. It can basically be a mind twist in the games where the copiers are drawn, which can completely neuter one or more problematic opponents, which basically guarantees that they lose the game. On top of all this, especially in grindy games, it can also perform value loops with Cormella as part of its effect, allowing you to return a creature from your graveyard to your hand. That leads us into the perfect segue into the most important category of support cards for this giant Grixis Haymaker shell, that being spell copiers. The copiers I run are Galvanic Iteration, Cursed Recording, Alania the Divergent Storm, Double Vision, and the super underplayed Sunken Palace. Okay, I know what you're thinking, but the best of these doubler engines is actually Cursed Recording, and it's not even close. Followed by Sunken Palace due to its inevitability, then Alania due to her ability to be returned by things like Breach the Multiverse, then Double Vision. The reason why Cursed Recording is the best one of all of these is because of the curve. It's Cursed Recording's 4 mana value that allows it to fit in the curve out plays this deck has. Turn 2 ramp, turn 3 recording, turn 4 Carmella, using her to play a 3 mana instant that then gets copied by the recording, then turn 5 copying a Haymaker instant like Worse Fears, Fevered Suspicion, or Breach the Multiverse, or what have you, with the 8 mana you untap with. In that late game situation where you need to get out of the Cursed Recording prison, you have plenty of options too. Rowan's Grim Search is a good one. Just bargain the thing away and draw 4. But the deck also runs plenty of artifact removal that can be pointed at your own recordings as well, and it's not card disadvantage to be doing so, since you get to copy that removal spell on the way out to hit an opposing object as well. Copying a spell is good value, yes, but it also lends itself well to making these large sorcery speed tap-out plays uncounterable. And just in case, I did fit a Mistrise Village into the mana base, so for a 2 mana tax on top of any spell, I can turn a big play like this uncounterable. This minor mana base talk does have an interesting point to be made about it, by the by. The deck currently sits at about $250. $150 of that is the mana base, and a few dollars can be shaved off here and there by replacing pricier options like Stock Up or Make an Example with cheaper clears and card advantage spells, while not touching the larger mana value options, as the most expensive one is actually about $6 with Breach the Multiverse. So, this deck has a major budget potential, to be certain. Back to valuable support cards, a recent addition to the deck that has earned its stay for eternity is Keen Duelist. The average mana value of the deck is only 2.3, but with the help of Brainstorm and Brain Surge, which are just good filtering for the deck, it can easily turn into a nuke with the help of 7 or 9 mana sorceries in hand. I have drained 20 or more life with it easily in games. And have you ever seen a Rite of Replication Keen Duelist? Well, I haven't either, but I can't wait to do it. Smoldering Egg also joins the ranks here as valuable spell-loving dork, since it flips into a shock engine after you spend 7 mana of instants of sorceries. That's right, not after you cast 7 spells, after you spend 7 mana for spells. Meaning Smeg typically blocks early and then flips right away late game and plays a nice control role. And especially, once again, if you Rite of Replication it, you can get 12 damage for each spell you cast. This deck has the room to support plenty of giant dumb grixis spells, so there's a chance cards like Soulfire Eruption or other giant spells come in that aren't there already. There are a few cards I've tried though that I ended up not liking, and I figured I'd mention them here. The first is Vile Smasher the Fierce, which was cut for Keen Duelist. The sole reason Vile Smasher isn't in here is due to the fact that it non-bows heavily with Profane Transfusion. When you cast a Transfusion to swap you and an opponent's life total, there's a chance you chunk them for 9, which naturally sucks heavy when you want that life total for yourself. Next is Xander's Pact, which you think would be perfect for this kind of list, but ultimately it whiffs far more commonly than you think, and sacrificing Cormella isn't really something you want to do much at all, in fact. Aetherize was a card I ended up cutting from the deck as well, as Cormella in a big spells deck like this is kind of really a rattlesnake once you get one off. Do you really want to blow up my commander when I have breached the multiverse in the graveyard? This means that most attacks don't actually end up coming my way. It's certainly a fine card, it's just a meta call that I ended up cutting it. On this topic though, of sacrificing Cormella, the deck does do some silly things with her beyond the Clone Legion play from earlier. With Sublime Epiphany, you can copy Cormella and Legend Rule her to get a buyback 0 counterspell stifle bounce cantrip combo that effectively untaps Cormella as well. And of course, I had to get a bit nasty with one of my favorites, Saw in Half, which lets you buy back 0, return any instant or sorcery spell from your graveyard to your hand. Incredibly broken value and controlled potential there. That does it for this deck tech though. What did you think? Let me know down in the comments below if you've had a deck with a lot of curved considerations like Cormella here, and if you have a favorite big spell you like to ramp into. Thanks for watching, and until next time, bye!